I'm Lydia Wilson, a journalist for New Lines magazine and the presenter of the BBC series The Secret History of Writing. I have a PhD on the Arabic philosopher Al-Farabi, and I'm sitting with one of my doctoral supervisors, and now friend, James Montgomery, the Sir Thomas Adams's Professor of Arabic at the University of Cambridge and Fellow of the British Academy. We're here to discuss authors, texts and ideas from the rich heritage of classical Arabic literature.
Chapter 7, Kalilah and Dimnah. A reading from The Lion and the Ox. So Dimnah set out, and when he arrived, he greeted the lion. "Who is this?" the lion inquired of his courtiers. They told him Dimnah's name and the name of his father, and the lion said, "I used to know his father." He told Dimnah to approach, then asked, "Where have you been living?" "In readiness at the king's gate," Dimnah replied, "waiting for some matter to arise in which I could assist the king with my counsel and my services. There are many occasions when the assistance of someone who seems insignificant may be needed. No one, however lowly or insignificant, is without some use. A twig thrown on the ground can be used to scratch an itchy ear. A creature that knows the difference between gain and loss is even more likely to be of use." The lion liked what he heard. Thinking that Dimnah might be blessed with good judgment and the ability to give sound advice, he turned to his courtiers and said, "Someone of intelligence and virtue may be of low station and obscure origin, yet his virtue will shine forth and be recognized, like a torch whose flame rises, even if it is pointed downward."
Faithful listeners to this podcast might have noticed our cover picture, which we've also used for all our social media. It's a picture of two jackals talking to each other under a tree. These jackals are called Kalilah and Dimnah, and their two names form the title of the book we will be discussing in this episode. This book has a history as varied as the fables it contains, travelling through languages, cultures and centuries, being shaped and reshaped along the way. From its Sanskrit origins, it was translated into Middle Persian by at least the 6th century of the Common Era, and soon thereafter went into Syriac, one of the languages of the Christians in the Persian Empire. In the 8th century, it made its way into Arabic through the translation from the Middle Persian by Ibn al-Muqaffa, right around the time the Abbasid dynasty took power in the Muslim world, in 750 of the Common Era. This translation was the basis for numerous versions in an array of languages. It went into Syriac again, along with New Persian, Old Castilian, Hebrew, Latin, Middle Greek, and Ottoman Turkish, at least. Along the way, the text was adapted and many versions have been lost, so we have no idea what Ibn al-Muqaffa's own translation actually looked like. But this hasn't affected the text's popularity, which has proved enduring until today. At the heart of the book are the discussions between the two jackals, who tell tales within tales, with moral and political lessons, involving animal leaders and their advisors discussing and illustrating the consequences of actions and decisions. Kalilah and Dimnah is a foundational work in classical Arabic literature, despite the fact it wasn't originally composed in Arabic, as it's one of the earliest books to appear in the language. It's a rich text with a long and intricate history, meaning there's a lot to unpack, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a very nice introduction. Actually, the text, the prehistory of the text hurts my brain.
Okay.
Almost as much as the post-history of the text. It's so bewildering. There are so many versions of this text.
Yes, and that just shows, doesn't it, that there's something universal in its contents.
Yes.
There's something that keeps being appealing to new contexts.
Yes.
Endlessly throughout the centuries until today.
Yes, and I have puzzled over what that might be.
Right.
For many, many years. And of course, the facile answer is to say everyone loves talking animals. But I think that's not the right answer. I think there's something more profound.
Yeah, about the content.
About the content that's going on.
And the discussions and the lessons, the morality element.
Possibly, but then although some of the virtues are, as it were, universal or transcendent, some of the virtues are very context and culture specific.
Right.
Which, means that we need to... So perhaps something that we can keep in the back of our minds as we have this conversation about Kalilah and Dimnah and see if we can get to some sort of a resolution towards the end.
That's a good thing to think about. I'll try and keep it in mind. Given your expertise, I thought we could just go straight into the Arabic version, unless you have got something to say about the Sanskrit Persian backstory. No. Let's just go straight into it. So, is it time as the Abbasid Empire? Pretty much exactly. It is fair to say, isn't it, as I said in the intro, that this translation was born pretty much exactly the same time as the Abbasid Empire, as they took power, which is a huge time of change politically, but none of their intellectual activities had got going. They were concentrating on their conquest and founding Baghdad and all, those very administrative, state-driven activities. It wasn't the time of patronage, the arts flourishing. Or you're going to disagree?
No, not completely disagree. I was going to sort of slightly qualify it. Of course, what we have to remember in this case is that Ibn al-Muqaffa was actually active under the previous dynasty,
the Umayyads,
and that his conversion to Islam that coincided with the emergence of the Abbasids, and then his move from Iran with the Abbasid revolution that started in Khorasan in Iran went westwards. Mm-hmm. So there is a kind of coincidence of events there. But what I would say is let's not think about this quite as literature just yet.
Okay.
Perhaps let's think about more Ibn al-Muqaffa, his activities, if we can see through thinking about that, if we get any access into what might be happening as the Abbasids topple the Umayyads of Syria, set up capital. Of course, Baghdad is not founded until 762 of the Common Era, so there's 12 years between that whilst they have their capital in Rosafa.
Right.
Administrative capital.
Yeah.
But Ibn al-Muqaffa's activities are located in Basra.
Right.
In Iraq.
Okay.
And if we think a little bit about him,
yes,
and also perhaps about his other works, very few of which have survived, we may get a sense of what was making the Abbasid Empire, what their concerns, preoccupations may have been.
Okay, so tell us a little about Ibn al-Muqaffa.
Yeah, so he was born in Fars, which is a province of Iran.
Right.
And we know that his family was wealthy. Mm-hmm. His name before he converted to Islam was Rozbeh, and he grew up as a Zoroastrian.
Right.
So the official religion of the Sasanian Iran. His father was a tax collector for the Umayyads. And Ibn al-Muqaffa, his name, we come back to names again. We always get fixated on names. Means son of the cripple.
Oh.
And we think that Muqaffa refers to the fact that his father had his hand cut off, or perhaps his arm crippled as a punishment for some form of embezzlement.
Mm-hmm. And then that punishment goes through the generations, if that's what his son is then known as.
Yes, that stays with him. I hadn't actually thought of that before, but that's a very good point.
So what did the son of the cripple do?
So when the first Abbasid Caliph was appointed or declared in 749, the Caliph appointed his uncle as a governor of Basra.
Right.
And Ibn al-Muqaffa found employment as a bureaucrat or high state functionary to the governor of Basra.
So he's going really straight in at the top politically. His career.
Yes, I mean, he would have been extremely well connected.
Yeah, through his family, despite his.
And as the Abbasid movement came from Khorasan East, it would have picked up supporters as it went. And of course, as we know from watching regime change and so on, a regime also always needs a bureaucracy. Always needs capable people to implement it, whether they are part of the previous regime or come along with a new regime. It seems to be a mix of both, and he seemed to fit into that capacity. So he was obviously extremely well educated, had an extremely good command of Arabic, but also an extremely good command of Middle Persian.
Right, which is key.
Yes. So when the first Abbasid caliph died, that's usually an occasion for some form of uprising or rebellion before the succession is finally settled. And in this case, the brother of Ibn al-Muqaffa's patron decided to rebel against the next appointed caliph.
Right.
That rebellion didn't go very well, and Ibn al-Muqaffa, in his capacity as secretary, was asked to write a safe conduct on behalf of the defeated family, which was then presented to the new caliph to agree.
Okay, so begging for mercy, really.
Well, you would have expected it to be begging for mercy, but apparently, according to the stories, Ibn al-Muqaffa wrote it in such a way that it tied the caliph's hands in so many ways and was so patronizing towards the caliph that the caliph was incensed. So the family was granted safe passage.
Yeah.
So it was successful from that point of view. But where it wasn't successful was that when the new governor was appointed to Basra, he was explicitly ordered by the caliph to execute Ibn al-Muqaffa for the offence that Ibn al-Muqaffa's drafting of the safe conduct
You said he had
created.
excellent Arabic, so this wasn't a mistake, was it?
No, I don't think it could have been.
No.
Yeah, if the story is, of course, correct, then that seems to be the way in which things unfolded. It's sort of complicated a bit by the fact that Ibn al-Muqaffa also wrote a treatise for the new caliph on not only the caliph's entourage, but the legal limits of caliphal authority. And I wonder if actually there isn't something in there.
Yeah.
It's a very short text, but if there isn't actually something in this text about the delimitation, the legal delimitation of caliphal authority, that was a real sticking point. Whatever version we accept, it seems that Ibn al-Muqaffa, or whoever was ordering him to write the safe conduct, were not being particularly politically astute in this regard.
Nobody seems to have been politically astute. So he was put to death. I'm just trying to work it out. He was only 37, in fact.
Yes.
But he did have time to do quite a lot of work.
He wasn't lazy by anyone's by any stretch of the imagination.
So what had he accomplished by then?
So what we know is that he was particularly active in the sphere of translating works from Middle Persian, from Pahlavi, into Arabic. And I think this is something which also applies to Kalilah and Dimnah.
Yeah.
So we know of a Persian work called the Book of Kings. So that's effectively a royal chronicle.
Yeah.
There's another book called the Book of Rules, and those are customs of the Sasanian court, the Sasanians being the last dynasty to rule Iran before the Muslim conquest. There's the Book of the Crown, and that's actually a set of biographies of the rulers of Iran.
Right.
With a particular focus on the king Anushirwan, who in the Islamic tradition is the model of the just ruler.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then we have Kalilah and Dimnah to complete that quartet of works of translation from Pahlavi into Arabic.
And there's a lot in common. there's a theme there.
Yes.
There's a definite...
Yeah,
I mean, there's thousands of works in Pahlavi that he could have been translating all sorts of different types of things, but he's concentrating, isn't he, on what's...
They all relate to statecraft, to rulership, to just kingship.
Yes.
But also, there is a valorization of that, the right term, of Iranian rulers, who then, it seems, emerge as kind of role models or exemplars for possibly the Abbasid caliphs. So unlike the Umayyads, who were very, as it were, connected with Arabia and perhaps more Western-looking in terms of their focus being on Byzantium, certainly in the early Umayyad dynasty, despite the conquests that sort of went all the way across east. North Africa to Islam, what we call Islamic Spain, and also to the east, to the Battle of Talas, which I think we've spoken of in one of our other podcasts about the importance of paper.
Right.
The early Abbasids were very Eastern looking in their outlook. So it's almost as if they wanted to model the Abbasid court on the Sasanian court.
Right, and so these were politically expedient texts to be translating.
Yes.
They would have gone down well and been popular and read.
I'm not so sure about read. I think they would have circulated in court circles.
Right.
Outside of that, I just wouldn't know.
No,
I don't think we can.
like that. No.
And we know of two other actual works that seem to have no other, they're not translations, seem to have no other earlier prototype. One is the work I mentioned for the new caliph on the caliphal entourage, and the other is a work that's called the Book of Ethical Conduct.
Right. And they're both in Arabic.
Yes, they're both in Arabic.
Yeah.
But very few of this material has survived in its entirety. We have quotations here and there from some of it.
Yeah.
But Kalilah and Dimnah is the most significant or largest text to have survived. The one in the caliphal entourage is really a more of a tract or a pamphlet than an actual book. It's very short in the form that we have it.
If he wanted to go into history, he did with Kalilah and Dimnah all alone. So it doesn't, he certainly made his mark, didn't he? I mean, it's just been read and read and read. I actually thought something else would come up in my last question, and because of the literary culture of the time.
Yes.
Was adab already a concept by this point?
What a question. Already a concept? Yes. I mean, well, we have occurrences of the term.
Okay. Right.
But whether they actually mean that or all refer to the same thing.
It hadn't really settled.
Yeah,
by then.
it wasn't a cultural norm, if I can use that.
Okay.
That term.
Well, maybe that's a red herring then, although it certainly is relevant later, isn't it, in Kalilah and Dimnah's fortunes?
It is, and it's probably worth just sort of perhaps doing a little bit of excavation or weeding before we start talking, because adab, a lot of people bring a lot of ideas to the table when they use the word adab.
Yeah.
Of course, it's plural. Adab is the modern Arabic for literature. What we'd understand by literature, normally a work of fiction or a work of creative literary imagination. And there has been now some 2 centuries plus of retrojection of that notion back onto the past.
Yeah, which is always...
Back onto the sort of 8th century, where looking for the origins of literature. And I want us to put literature to one side when we think about this, because in the early stages, adab seems to refer to a body of precepts, normally relating to statecraft or to some form of virtue that's attendant upon statecraft, that can be codified and transmitted and taught.
Right. With virtue and morality at its heart.
Yes. And that's because the way that I see adab is that its fundamental concern is with the value of the human act.
Oh, okay. I've never heard it put like that before.
I don't know that anyone else has put it like that before.
I mean, it's not a very easy translation.
No.
How would you translate it if you were putting it in a sentence?
So, and sometimes it can mean urbanity, because it then accrues a sense in which a fixation with the value of the human act expressed in pleasant, pleasing, literate or erudite terms.
Right.
And that obsession or fixation with the value of the human act is not a purely intellectual activity, it is a physical, performative activity. You are supposed to live out your interest.
That's the act, isn't it? It's expressed through behaviour.
Yes.
Through every part of your behaviour.
It comes to be expressed through behaviour, very much so. So although there is a intellectual dimension, there's a lived dimension.
Right.
And so the old definition that was commonplace when I started studying was the work has to be educational and entertaining.
Okay, like the BBC.
Right? The way the BBC would like to model itself.
That's its strapline.
Yeah. So in that educational and entertaining, educational in the sense that you don't just learn it, but you learn it in order to then perform it.
Yes.
I don't like entertaining because it makes it sound as if it's slightly frivolous.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be entertaining in the sense that its formulation, verbal and intellectual or conceptual, encourages you to perform it because it makes it easier to, as it were, understand, ingest, and more pleasant to enact.
Yeah. It's not just lists of instructions.
Yes.
It's bound up in something more easy to absorb.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I would encourage us and anyone who happens to listen to us to get rid of this idea of adab as fiction and so on. We're missing the point. We're looking at whatever it is. Is it the woods and not seeing the trees, or not seeing the trees or the wood? I forget which way around it goes at the moment.
But behaviour is key.
Yes, yes.
Now, I've heard it translated, I mean, we all have, as belles lettres.
Yes.
So is that a little bit of a distraction as well?
It's only a distraction in the sense that it's impartial. It's partial.
It's partial, yeah.
It's
focusing on the literary without the behaviour.
Yes, and it's trying to keep alive this idea that adab is literature.
Yeah. Belles lettres, yeah.
Yes.
And it's carved off a whole chunk of the ideal.
Yeah.
So, Kalilah and Dimnah then fits absolutely into this.
Yes.
It's fables, it's stories, it's talking animals, all sorts of different things happened. As we heard in the introductory reading, it's very absorbing as a narrative.
Yes.
But it's directly related to instruction about behaviour, decision-making, statecraft, and all the rest of it.
Yes.
Adab.
Yeah.
It's adab.
Yeah, because at its centre is how do we assess the human act?
Yeah.
Even though these are animals who are acting.
Yeah.
They are acting largely as humans, not exclusively as humans. Sometimes they do act as animals when, for example, in the tale of the lion and the ox, the lion decides to kill the ox. He very much as a lion when he kills the ox.
Yeah.
So they never completely lose their animality, even though they are so heavily anthropomorphized.
Well, let's just talk about that then, the use of animals in general. And of course, we have so many other examples of animals in morality tales. Most famous in our tradition is Aesop's fables, which are so embedded in our culture that even if you've never read them or even heard of them, you've heard of Dog in the Manger or Sour Grapes.
Yes.
So it's not as if this is culturally specific, using animals. What's the reason? Why do humans do this? Why do we draw on animals to tell these tales? Yeah,
I wish I could answer that. I mean, I would just preface the fact that it's only a recent phenomenon that Aesop has been read by children.
Yes.
Aesop traditionally was, as it were, ethical instruction for adults.
Yeah. I had the Ladybird version. They were beautiful.
Yes. It's very much a late phenomenon that Aesop has been converted into moral enlightenment for young people.
For the young.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I mean, I was just assuming there'd be something about the use of animals extracts it from any specific context and makes it human, rather than this is how we behave in our family or our town or our tribe.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. I mean, that's one of the elements that appeals and that would make it attractive to do so. I mean, one would really have to have a Sanskritist in here to ask why the Panchatantra, whatever it was based on, does such a thing.
I'm glad you said the name. I've been wondering how to say that.
I don't know if it's correct. I do what I always do when confronted with a word I don't know how to pronounce. I give it a good welly and see what happens.
Just launch yourself at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are we supposed to fit the two unifying characters throughout are Kalilah and Dimnah? They're leading all the discussion.
In the first story.
Oh, okay then, yes.
Yeah, in the tale of the lion and the ox.
The lion and the ox. They're framing... Oh, should we just take a step back then and look at the structure?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think so. What is this book? What does it consist of?
I've always struggled to keep in mind the structure of this book, and I think I'd like to talk about that in the course of our conversation, because I think it points to something quite fundamental about the text and possibly its appeal. But in basic terms, the structure of the text is it has 3 introductions. One is about the mission to India to effectively do a bit of industrial espionage, to steal a translation of this book from India and bring it back to Iran.
Which all sets up the understanding that this is valuable.
Yes.
What you're about to hear has real value.
It does. It does very much so. It positions it, and also it allows you, the reader, to feel that you're getting privileged information. You're in on the adventure, the search for esoteric knowledge, for not only knowledge that's valuable, but knowledge that is very, very closely guarded and kept secret.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's the first introduction. What comes next?
Then we have an introduction that's attributed to Ibn al-Muqaffa himself.
Right.
So there's an author's introduction. But then the third section, or the third type of introduction, is actually a biography of the individual that was sent to India to acquire the text. And this is what he asks for as his reward for bringing the text back successfully.
To be recorded. To
be recorded in a monumentalized, as it were, not in a statue, but in a biography.
Yeah, and it's lasted. It's worked.
So once we get these 3 prefaces to the book consists of 14 principal narratives told by a philosopher to a king. 9 of these principal tales contain what are embedded micro-narratives. Tales within tales within tales, like Russian dolls. And there are 60 of those micro-narratives embedded throughout 9 of the 14 tales. And the central chapter, the one that introduces us to Kalilah and Dimnah, called The Lion and the Ox, chapter 4 of the book, it's the main attraction, I think, of the book. That contains 21 embedded narratives.
Can you even keep track of all those characters?
No, you can't. It's simply impossible, because a character will tell another character a tale. And in the course of that tale, a character will tell other characters a further tale.
Inside
the tale, and inside. At one point, when in the course of my career, I found this very uncongenial. I didn't like the embedded narratives.
Just because we have spoken before about our culture's obsession with narrative and linearity in narrative. Is it that you just keep getting distracted? It's like, finish what you were saying before you go on.
Partly that. Partly that I think I simply missed the point.
Okay.
And I think that there is a big point to be made about how these embedded narratives work.
Okay.
And so we've positioned the text as a sort of ethical treatise that deals with the virtues of statecraft, of virtues that relate to how humans interact, perhaps in a court setting. So friendship, loyalty, secrecy,
Right.
keeping secrets, extremely important.
Oh dear.
And also the text warns against certain vices. And, many of these key ethical terms are quite familiar.
Okay.
There's, intelligence, judgment, prudence, knowledge, wisdom, love, and so on. And by employing the embedded micro-narratives, we start to get a granularity to these virtues.
Right.
We start to wonder, is the work actually purely pragmatic?
Right.
Or is there something else at play?
What is the something else?
So often pragmatic conduct will be at variance with virtuous conduct.
Aha. So you're exploring a tension.
Yes. And the tension is explored through the chopping up of the narrative. Right. And many of the embedded narratives will take themes or virtues from previous narratives and recast them and redeploy them and show them functioning and playing out in different contexts. Right. And so the cumulative effect of it all is to kind of problematize the whole form of virtuous thinking.
Yeah. And if you go back to your definition of adab, which I can't quite capture, say it again.
It's an obsession with the value of the human act.
The human act. There is a deep uncertainty in human decision making.
Yes.
There's such branching repercussions of any particular human act.
Yes.
And to assess that kind of thing, to come up with an answer of what you should have done or should not have done is vastly complex.
Yes.
And there isn't always a right answer.
No.
So,
There isn't. And one might think that, the Quran answers a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
And there's not anything that I can see that is particularly un-Quranic about the situations as it develops in Kalilah and Dimnah. But there is a tension between, so for example, in those cases where cunning is successful.
Oh, yeah. Which it shouldn't be, really.
Well, I mean, maybe it might be determined by its outcome. Or it might be that it's cunning, but if it's deceitful cunning. And the framework of Kalilah and Dimnah, of course, the cosmos, is effectively one of a providential God who organizes everything.
Yeah.
And so is there a contradiction between God's providence and human cunning?
Yeah.
Where do we apportion the responsibility?
Yeah.
And I think the embedded narratives allow this positioning to be problematized.
Yes.
And they just muddy the picture. They just complicate the whole ethical outlook.
And so what's a good, attentive, close reader supposed to draw from this? That there aren't easy answers, or the world is uncertain, or...
I think the reader is intended to sort of... What the text gives us is an experience of the world and of how the world works without the actual risk of loss in the world, if you see what I mean. So we're not actually living.
Yeah.
We're reading this experience, we're experiencing it vicariously through these animal characters without actually being at risk ourselves.
So it's like running thought experiments.
Yes.
Or being given the thought experiments that you might not have come up with.
Yeah, that's a nice way of thinking about it.
And those tales within tales are running slightly different scenarios out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But without any obvious resolution.
Yeah, that is a key lesson.
Uh-huh. And that might be the lesson of the book, that one simply, there is no silver bullet answer.
How does that contrast with other texts of the time, other morality, or not even of the time, in the later traditions, the Mirrors for Princes and those sorts of instructional how to behave type guides?
Well, they don't employ embedded narrative.
But they're aiming for easy solutions, like do this, do that, do this, don't they?
Yeah, they're codes of conduct.
Yeah. There's not this
With
uncertainty.
a touch of self-help manual about them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I'm trying to get to is a thing that escaped me for so many years. And even when I was working on the translation with Michael Fishbein, it escaped me in the beginning. And it was very, very difficult to translate the embedded narratives because I was always forgetting what the previous embedded narrative was saying and so on. And it wasn't until I finished the project where I thought, well, why was that so difficult? And that, I think, is actually what I'm supposed to have been left with. Why was it so difficult for me to follow through, the reader to follow through? And I think that there's some form of a hermeneutic value.
Yeah. In the difficulty.
In the difficulty.
Yeah.
Yes. And that set me thinking more about what that might actually mean. And you asked me earlier about sort of why animals, and I sort of dodged it because I wanted to perhaps bring it in at this point. So representation of human conduct via animals. So on the one hand, the animals remain animals. On the other hand, they behave like human animals. But the gap that's created, the tension between the two, allows kind of for a space of exploration.
Yes.
You know, when is the animal acting as a non-human animal? When is it acting as a human animal?
Another element of uncertainty and meaning.
Yes. But actually, it then becomes a vehicle for bringing abstractions more into the human realm.
Okay. Can you give an example?
So we get unusual perspectives on, for example, difference, diversity, hierarchy. Because the animals tend still to behave as animals. And that creates the tension with how they might behave as human animals.
Yeah.
And so it opens up this kind of space.
Yeah. Yeah.
By being both one thing and the other, the tensions that occur between the one thing and the other, and then the coincidences of behaviour between the one thing and the other, and all of this builds a kind of cumulative picture where you open up a kind of space, a kind of epistemic field.
Chasm, really.
Yeah, chasm, vortex. It opens up this kind of space where the reader finds herself in unfamiliar territory. So the animals act in such a way that it problematizes the act of reading.
Yes.
For us.
Leading us into spaces where we're not being told what to think.
Yes.
And then you have to do that work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a point at which we get, in our thinking about embedded narratives, to a subject that we've touched on in a number of our conversations, and that is, you mentioned already, narrative.
Yeah.
And there's a fundamental uncertainty about narrative, I think. I've already spoken in one or two of our other podcasts about how narrative seems such a natural way for us to think about things. But it's anything but natural.
Yes, yes.
But if you try to imagine, how do we try to imagine a world without narrative? And even any solution to that will itself take the form of a narrative.
Absolutely. How do we construct ourselves without a narrative?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So narrative is somehow absolutely fundamental to once we acquire it.
Yeah, we can't.
We can't.
We can't escape it.
And of course, the people who have not acquired completely the command of narrative are the very, very young who are not developed enough at that stage to be able to tell us what it might be like. And of course, I've always had dogs. I'm a great dog lover.
Yeah.
And I've often looked at my dog's behaviour and wondered, so how is the dog reacting in this situation? Is it reacting in a kind of narrative or narratological way? Or is it simply purely instinct? So here's an example.
Okay.
We all have certain kind of patterns of behaviour.
Yeah.
And dogs always follow patterns of behaviour. It's how they interpret everything. So your dog might be sleeping on the back of the car.
Yeah.
And when you're about to pull into your drive, the dog knows, bang, wakes up.
Yeah.
Now, it's not because the dog is prescient. The dog is alert to how you are reacting in the car at that stage of the journey as you pull into your drive. So the dog is waiting for your lead.
Yeah. Reading.
Yes, it's reading your reactions.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, particularly about my latest dog, who is a wonderful 13-year-old Jack Russell, and they're quite sharp as dogs go. They're not like Labradors, who are usually a bit challenged in the cognitive capacity. He's quite good at working out how things go. And he knows that if I walk in a certain direction, that I will then do certain things.
Yeah.
Right? So he's predicting my behaviour.
Yeah.
What he can't deal with is when I change my mind. Oh. When I alter the narrative, then he's completely lost, right?
Yeah.
So I think the point I'm trying to make is that dogs probably don't think in narrative terms. I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to say, yes, they do. You don't know what you're talking about. But certainly in my limited experience,
let us know on Twitter,
as a
everybody.
dog owner, yes. And please be kind.
Yes. And the Terry is lovely.
Yeah. And I wouldn't know what to do without him.
No.
Yeah. So to get back to the idea of narrative.
Yeah.
So here we are. The characters in Kalilah and Dimnah are kind of acting like my
Reggie.
Jack Russell, like Reggie. And so it creates this space that, when he thinks I'm about to do something and then I change my mind, he sort of looks and gets very perplexed.
And that's our job, to kind of walk into a story.
Yes.
There's a big space there where we just don't get it because it doesn't meet our expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there is this, it does problematize this whole aspect of how we create narratives in order either to fulfill our wishes or perhaps tell more pleasant stories about ourselves.
Yeah, not simple, easier for ourselves. So what's the purpose of disrupting us like this? What's the purpose of pushing us into spaces where we don't know what to think? What's the text doing?
So I think the text thinks that there's a certain amount of value to be had from that kind of aporia that we find ourselves in.
Aporia, good word.
Yes.
I've been struggling for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We feel we should know the answer.
Yeah.
But we don't automatically know the answer. And that in itself becomes a sort of performative, perhaps, state where not knowing the answer becomes part of the answer.
Right. So it's training us to see that uncertainty is part of life.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes. Yes. Or training us not to allow ourselves to be led to facile judgments or conclusions.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of form of ethical scrutiny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's teaching us to
Through
scrutinise.
the problematization of narrative.
Now, this is far at odds with the story of animals talking to each other. That kind of idea that you've already pointed out, that Aesop is now for children,
Yes.
not for adults.
Yes.
And we've gone way deeper into the epistemology of the text than just nice stories of animals. What's the evidence of how this text has been read over time? Is this a reading that you've come to because you've translated it, or is this something you've picked up from other readers over time?
My thinking is directly a result of having worked with Michael Fishbein on the translation.
Yeah.
Kalilah and Dimnah would not have been the kind of text that I would have spent as much time on, largely down to my own ignorance,
Yeah.
if I hadn't been involved with Michael
Right.
in doing it. Just not the kind of text that I'm particularly interested in, or would not have been. So I wouldn't have voluntarily gone and worked on this text if I hadn't been asked to be involved.
Really? Can you
Yes.
can you think of what you just said because of my own ignorance?
Yes.
What do you mean? You didn't realise these levels of meaning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
And, I've already spoken, I think, I don't think we've mentioned it in the course of our conversations for this podcast series, but do you know that I'm not a huge fan of the 1001 Nights.
Right.
And so I confused frame tale with embedded narrative.
Okay.
That's what I meant by my ignorance, right?
yeah.
I just didn't give myself enough time to think about
live with it.
I thought, frame tale. And I'm not a huge fan of reading European fiction that involves frame tales
Right.
either.
No.
And so it's not the kind of thing that I would have felt drawn to
Yeah.
until I started working on the project. And I had this problem with thinking my way through the embedded narratives. And it's because the narratives are embedded
Yeah.
that makes them so interesting and so challenging
Yeah.
and so problematic. The other thing the text encourages us to do is to be very suspicious about language.
Right. Another level of uncertainty.
Yes.
Okay. Can we dive into that? What do you mean?
So in order to understand how the text encourages us to be very suspicious of language, it does so again in the central chapter, The Lion and the Ox, through the figure of Dimnah,
Right.
one of the two jackals that give the text its name. Now, Kalilah, as a jackal, decent human being, as it were, a decent jackal.
Individual, yes.
Decent individual.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to, not particularly ambitious, wants to serve the king, the lion being the king.
Yeah.
The ox becomes the lion's trusted advisor.
Yeah.
So when Dimnah is introduced to the court from the section that I read at the head of our podcast, Dimnah sets out to undermine the ox and to take the ox's place.
Which is a pretty common feature of courts.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a world everyone recognises.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's a common feature of companies
Yeah.
and societies, families, yes, you name it. But Dimnah manages so to twist the king's understanding of the ox's behaviour that in a fit of rage, the lion kills the ox.
Yeah.
And it so happens that when Kalilah and Dimnah are discussing the aftermath of this, and Kalilah says to Dimnah, you shouldn't have done that, and so on, they're overheard.
Yeah.
And Dimnah ends up in prison.
Yeah.
Now, the king is still not 100% sure that Dimnah is guilty, so the suggestion is made that he should be put on trial.
Yeah.
Now, the trial section of this chapter is one of the absolute masterpieces of classical Arabic writing, because the arguments that Dimnah marshals in his defense are so convincing at first blush. He's able to say so many things in his defense. He mounts a really robust defense of his actions. And they, of course, are so convincing because they're about sort of 60% true.
Yeah. Yeah. He's drawing on the truth.
Yes, he is very, very much manipulating
Yep.
the truth. And it's only because we as readers are in possession of the full facts
Yeah.
that we're able to see things that the king can't see. And
Yeah.
the king is sort of almost convinced of Dimnah's truthfulness. It isn't until other evidence comes to light that damns Dimnah that Dimnah actually loses the judgment. He doesn't lose the case.
So his language hasn't been found faulty. Other evidence is brought in.
Yes.
Right.
And the thing that characterises Dimnah's speech is there's a massive disjunction between intention and meaning.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Have you got
Sound
an example?
familiar?
Yeah,
right. So his words are fine,
Yeah.
but his actions are deplorable.
Right.
And so he will protest his ignorance with moral arguments. They're often couched in religious overtones.
Yeah.
And they have a kind of logical cogency to them. They're so well argued. And I encourage anyone listening to the podcast to go with, the only thing you do is to read chapter 4 and read Dimnah's defence of his actions. I think what Dimnah, through this performance, comes to represent is a kind of ethical ambiguity. We know that he's a bad sort.
Right. He led
and
to...
yet all of his behaviour is judged to be a good sort. Right? So there is this ambiguity between what we know about him and what everyone else knows about him. And in the end, I think we're led to the conclusion that for Dimnah, what is actually true is not so much the truth, but rather not getting caught in a lie.
Right.
And, not getting caught in a lie kind of informs pretty much the way in which we use language publicly for almost any purpose.
Oh, that's so miserable. What a miserable view of humans.
Right? I mean, I don't want to get into politics or whatever, but advertising is based on the idea that you don't actually tell the truth about your product. You just don't tell a lie about your product.
Right. Well, all sorts of public life.
Yes. But, political language is characterised by the use of statistics, for example, that are true in one sense, but not true in another sense.
Yeah, and don't answer.
And are not representative of the full picture.
Yeah.
So what Dimnah gives us is this sense of the unreliability, I think, of language.
So it's the language that's giving the ambiguity, but it's also another illustration of this collision between pragmatism, not getting caught, and virtue, which is doing the right thing.
Yes. Yeah, and pragmatism in the sense of being successful.
Yeah.
Perhaps in a kind of Machiavellian, what we understand by a Machiavellian approach, that the end should justify the means, and a more virtue-informed approach that would say that, the conduct has to be virtuous irrespective of the outcome.
And what's the lesson of the book? Is it don't get caught, or is it do the right thing, or is it don't trust anybody because language is slippery?
Well, I think that's up to the listener to decide, to be honest. I mean, I have my own ideas, but I think just as the book doesn't give us this answer, I think we shouldn't probably attempt to answer it.
In fact, that is the point, to think...
Probably, I think,
think these things through for yourself,
yes,
knowing there's no easy answers.
Yes.
Is that a pessimistic reading?
Pessimistic or realistic, pragmatic?
It's a guide to living.
At what point does pragmatism become pessimism? It's certainly not optimistic.
But maybe it's neither.
Yes.
Well, I would encourage everybody to read it, and because we can't give them the answers, therefore, by definition.
Yes.
They have to do that work.
Yes.
To work through all the uncertainties, the layers of uncertainties that you've portrayed.
Yes.
And the act of working through is the point.
Yes. I think that is what I've come to conclude after working the text over the last 8 to 10 years or so, that the point is that you have to work out what the point is.
I think that's a great end.
That was pretty weird, that discussion.
Thank you very much for downloading this podcast.